Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Christmas edition of Sports Shorts Daily. We are just a couple of days away, 3 days away, in fact, from Santa going into everybody's homes. Hope everyone is getting ready for a wonderful Christmas. Happy Hanukkah to those that are going to be celebrating that, as well as Kwanzaa and all the other ones. TK, Tommy Christ in over Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. I imagine, Tommy, that Tremonti's is rocking and rolling as folks are getting all their, it's like thank the calm before the storm.
Well, I tell you, if we'd went on the air 15 minutes ago, I'd have had a mute button on. I had a big crowd in here, people loading up on wine. Here's a guy buying a case of champagne, the prime rib. I mean, it's not too late to stop by here and get something for Christmas. They're all going to be closed starting Sunday all the way through next Friday. Give the employees a break. But they are rocking and rolling this morning. I saw a big 6 briskets that have been cooked overnight sitting in the back. So, you want some brisket, you want some prime rib, they were frying turkeys this morning. It's really a hustle and a bustle here at Tremonti's. And again, it's not too late to get some wine, some bourbon, tequila, vodka, whatever you want. All the meats, it's just unbelievable in here today. Stop by. They're going to be open till 5. They open tomorrow during the day until 5. So come on by. I'm coming by tomorrow to pick up my prime rib after we do radio. So I'm ready for it.
All right, so Sports Shorts, of course, I'm coming to you from an undisclosed location presented by Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, and we are always presented by LeBear's Casino, the title sponsor of Sports Shorts Radio, TV, daily, you name it. We'll be over there tomorrow from Sports Shorts Radio at LeBear's inside the ESPN Bet Sportsbook. We'll be have a chance to watch some games or afterwards have a little lunch as well. So stop on by. We'll be there from 10 to noon tomorrow at LeBear's at the ESPN Sportsbook. LeBear's was rocking and rolling last night. They had a good crowd over at the Sportsbook to watch the Saints in action. And the Saints ended up losing by 8. And which is kind of ridiculous. They got 2 garbage touchdowns late in the fourth quarter. I hate the fact that Carr threw for over 300 yards. That way his numbers actually look good. He had 3 touchdowns. He had 300 yards. You think, oh, good game. No, it was all garbage time, yards. But in typical Saints fashion, Tommy, I do believe that they, not only were they outclassed, and the Rams right now are a good team. I mean, was Stafford at quarterback. That's Stafford at quarterback, healthy. His numbers show it. He's played really well over the last 5 weeks, and when he's in there, they're a Super Bowl contender. I mean, they wanted it when he was at quarterback a few years ago. So they are a team that nobody's going to want to see if they get into the playoffs and stay, that kind of thing. But they were better. They're the better team than the Saints, and that was obvious. But they also outcoached the Saints, and that was obvious. There were a couple of decisions that Dennis Allen made that were just, in my mind, reckless, okay, is the best way to describe it. They went for it on 4th and 5, slightly into Rams territory across the 50, twice in the first half, when the Saints offense wasn't clicking enough to where you believe, and you weren't, first off, 4th and 5, if you decide to go for it in the NFL on 4th and 5, that's a desperate situation. That's a situation where you'd have to go for it. Other than that, you kick the field goal, you take the punt, you play field position game. They went for it down 7-0, didn't get it. Then right before half, when the Saints miraculously are only trailing 10-7, okay, and they are at the 48-yard line of the Rams on 4th and 5 with just under a minute to play before halftime, they go for it, run a terrible play, don't even come close to getting the first down, and end up giving the ball at basically midfield. And not only did they get a field goal, they got a touchdown. And at that point, the game's over. It's 17-7 at halftime. Instead of it being 10-7, because you punt, you're down it at the 8-yard line, there's 50 seconds left to go. Chances are, at best, they get a field goal. You then lose. You're down 10 points at halftime, lose the momentum. Rams are getting the ball first to come out the second half, and it's a ball game.
You just hit the key point. Rams were getting the ball to start the third quarter. Okay, so you're right. You punt it, you're down on the 8, and they're going to take one pass, and if it don't work, they're going to kneel on it. Okay, from that deep in their own territory. So it was just a bad decision by Dennis Allen. He tried to defend it after the game. He sounded like an idiot, in my opinion. And I mean, it's just Brownie. Both teams were 7-7 coming in. Okay, Saints had won a couple. This was like a playoff game. Okay, you had to have the mindset that if we win this game, we're increasing our percentage of getting to the playoffs, maybe seeing that we get there. If we lose this game, we're basically done. The percentages are less than 10%. And the Saints had no enthusiasm. I don't want to hear this short week thing and a couple of linemen were hurt. It's like a playoff game. You forget all that other stuff. You find a way to do it. And Ronnie, there was a couple of times last night, one in particular, I was sitting with some friends. The Saints had a 3rd and 7, threw the ball 3 yards down the field. Okay, you can't do that. About one possession later, the Rams had a 3rd and 15 and completed a 16-yard pass. They got to the sticks and got stepped out of bounds on the far side, top of the screen, really close, but they gave them the first down. I mean, that's just, look, I know today's Friday. I know I put this in a text message. You disagreed, but I think they should fire Dennis Allen and Carmichael today. Okay, let Ronald Curry be the interim coach or somebody else on the staff. Let somebody else call the plays for these final 2 games. You got a road game to Tampa, home game against the Falcons. Gail Benson's got to send a message that what was happening last night. Morton Anderson, you saw his tweet. Saints fans deserve better than what we saw last night. That's Morton Anderson, one of the greatest kickers of all time, and a huge Saints guy, even though he kicked a few other places at the end of his career, notably the Falcons. That sums it up. Former player, Ronnie, it's like you, former LSU baseball player, when LSU baseball is not doing good, that's not how it should be. You and all your teammates and everybody else that played there. That's what's going on with the Saints. It's got to change. There's no turning this thing around. By the way, Ronnie, another thing last night, if Dennis Allen would have won that game last night, that would have been his 8th regular season win as a head coach, albeit only a few years with the Raiders, a few years with the Saints. He's never won 8 games in a season as a head coach. So that should have been motivation for him. And then all of a sudden he's making stupid decisions on 4th down. The play calling was horrendous. And, he benched the cornerback for missing an assignment, Adebo, and then they asked him about that after the game, and he just said he thought it was better for the team. Well, better for the team is get rid of Dennis Allen.
Well, I don't have much faith that they're going to go into Tampa and win next week. Tampa's, playing well. Baker Mayfield's really been playing well the last few weeks. They're on a roll. They're at home. They've got everything to play for. And so I'm not very confident that the Saints are going to go on the road and win that game. I feel like that, they are who they are. They were down 30-7 in this game. So folks that maybe tuned in and went to bed or didn't pay attention or whatever, you see the score, 30-22. No. It was 30-7. And then they got 2 touchdowns, in the last half of the 4th quarter to make it, a close score, a 1-score game. They didn't cover, by the way. They were a 4.5, 5-point dog. Something.
I laid 4 points, so I had a winning ticket last night.
But unfortunately, there's a chance they could go 9-8. They could go 9-8, not make the playoffs, and does Gail Benson say, well, they had a winning record? I know it's a little disappointing, but the kicker missed a couple kicks, and we had some injuries, and I'm worried that 8-9 or 9-8 may be good enough to for this regime to stick around because and here's the thing is that like when you look at Carr's numbers, when you look at his numbers, you go, okay, that's not bad, right? I mean, if you look at the QBR and you look at the numbers as a whole, and last night they showed all the injuries he's played through and all that. So, but there's something not right with Derek Carr. It's not gelling, whether it's a personality conflict and him as a human being just doesn't get along well, or it doesn't mesh well. It looks clunky. It doesn't feel good. Derek Carr, like, for example, he just seems always a little late. The crucial 3rd and 5 where, Olave ran the slant and he threw the ball behind him. Is that Olave's fault? Did he run the wrong route? Was the timing off? But the bottom line is that, the ball was behind him and it was a hot. So it's coming in hot and it's here. Yeah, Olave got his hands on it. He probably should have caught it. But like, why is the throw behind him? And to me, Carr always looks hesitant. Like he's got to wait to see the guy open before he throws it. Like, we got so used to watching Drew Brees for 15, 16 years that I feel like, Tommy, I kind of know the rhythm, right? I know the pace. Like I've seen that play, like, like especially like the little sprint out passes. It seems like, Drew, would take like 3 steps and then he'd throw and he'd lead the guy in front. And it's like Carr is taking 4 steps and he waits to the guy, and then it's high, and then allows the defender to get in and break it up. He just doesn't look like he's playing at a high level. And I've seen him play at a high level early on in his career, so I know he's got it in him. But it just doesn't. It's never looked in sync outside of really throwing the deep ball. He is just not good. I mean, he is so much weaker than I realized he was on in the short intermediate stuff, particularly the short stuff. He's just not accurate. He's late. It's just not very good. He can throw the deep ball. He can do that.
You just used the key word, accurate. One of the biggest quality an NFL quarterback can have is accuracy. He doesn't have that. And let's back it up. His numbers in his early years with the Raiders were respectable, okay? They were sporty. He made a Pro Bowl or two. But keep this in mind. He got benched by a bad Raiders team because they didn't think he could get it done anymore. And then all of a sudden he ends up in New Orleans for $150 million. And we've seen nothing through 15 games. The only thing we can really say about him, he's a tough dude. He's gotten racked up. He's gotten pounded into the turf. He's gotten hit. He's got, sandwiched hit in the backfield. So he's a tough dude. Other than that, he's not a real good NFL quarterback at this point in time. And, and they don't want to play Jameis Winston because they put all the money in Carr's pocket, So if all of a sudden they would have started Winston, then they're admitting that they made a mistake with Carr. So it's a little of that's playing into this too. And it's unfortunate for Saints fans. We looked at this schedule. We knew it was soft. Ronnie, the only team they've beaten with a winning record is the Indianapolis Colts, and they're nothing great to write home about. So we thought this would be a better season than what it has become. We thought the NFC South was there for the taking. But guess what? The Saints are going nowhere in a hurry. And I don't think Gail Benson's going to make the decision. If Mickey Loomis, Dennis Lauschka, goes into her office and says, we have to make a coaching change, she's going to say, okay. I don't think she's calling Mickey Loomis, hey, Mickey, walk down the hall, come to my office here. I think we got to get rid of Dennis Allen. I don't see that. I see her being told what to do. And let's hope Loomis and the other top-end front office people, Greg Menzel, whoever, let's hope they convince her to make a change. I say today. You think right after the season, okay?
Yeah, I don't see
especially if they're not somehow they don't squeak into the playoffs. They squeak into the playoffs, it's another story. But that's like 7% chance to make the playoffs after last night. So, they're just a mess. They're just a mess. And Saints fans love the Saints, the black and gold. They fill the dome. That's just not a good football team.
Well, here's what has to happen: the Jaguars have to beat the Bucks, and that could happen. The Jacksonville Jaguars play at 3:00 on Sunday in Tampa, and if the Jacksonville Jaguars win, and then the Saints go and win out, win in Tampa and they win at home against the Falcons, they'll be in the playoffs. That's a tall task because a couple things. I mean, Tampa, Jacksonville at this stage, where the way that Tampa's playing and at home, that's a coin flip game. And then the Saints, I don't have a lot of faith that they're going to go over there and win in Tampa. They haven't played. But there's a path, but it all comes down to Sunday. If Tampa Bay wins at home on Sunday, you can forget it, because then you would have to beat Tampa in Tampa and then have Tampa lose to the Carolina Panthers, who got 2 wins or whatever this year. And so that's very unrealistic. If the Tampa Bay is going to be good enough to beat Jacksonville, then they're probably going to be good enough to beat Carolina when you got to win to get into the playoffs. So it's frustrating because, Tommy, this was the easiest schedule the Saints maybe have ever played in the history of the Saints. The way it fell with injuries to quarterbacks, the way it fell with rookie quarterbacks and bad teams on their schedule. I mean, this was a team that going into the Rams game was playing like a 410 winning percentage. This was there for the taking. And if they end up with an 8-9 record, that they should be ashamed of themselves. Hell, 9-8, they should be ashamed of. They should have won 10, 11 games easy with this schedule. And to win 8 or 9, super unimpressive. Tommy, I'm not hearing you. I don't know if you hit your mute button or something.
I did. There we go. let's back it up a little bit. The Saints started the season with 2 wins and then had a 17-point lead on the road against Green Bay. And you think, wow, if they come out the gate 3-0
in the fourth quarter, 17-point lead in the fourth
this
quarter.
could be a whole nother conversation we're having today. Right? It could be totally different. So you look, they always talk about the season's a marathon, it's a long season, but you can always look back at that one time at this point and say, that was the turning point. That, I think, was it. Some other people pointed that out on social media last night. That since then, there's never really been a whole lot of okay, they just won 2 in a row against 2 garbage teams, okay, 2 really bad teams. And as we said, the only win they have against a team with a winning record this year is the Colts. And the Colts are not, they're 8-6 coming into this weekend. So, I mean.
So, Tommy, it's interesting. They're up 17-0 in the fourth quarter, okay? You go 3-0, it's hard not to make the playoffs in the NFL after going 3-0. The other thing is that, the confidence it gives you, the trajectory of, I mean, even if you don't blow the 17-point lead, like, regardless of how you win, say you blow the 17-point lead and it takes the field goal at the end that they missed, the 43 or 45-yard field goal they missed. It, regardless of how trashy you win, if you just win that game, statistically, it's hard to not make the playoffs. But also look at what it did for the Packers. Jordan Love's been a heck of a quarterback since then. Like what that comeback did for him. Now the Packers aren't going to make the playoffs, but what it did for him and what it did for that franchise. I mean, they're looking at him now like, okay, he can be our franchise quarterback. Like he's going to be the guy. They start showing his numbers. Compared to Rodgers at this stage in his career and all that, they're very similar, right? And so now, that game was so monumental. Yeah, there's been a couple of other games that they blew, but that one in particular is just inexcusable. And you're right. At the end of the day, probably going to keep them out of the playoffs.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just. I don't know what else we can say that hadn't been said or how much more. We're beating up on them. They deserve to be beat up on. Again, last night should have been a mindset of a playoff game. Okay, we win, our percentages go here. We lose, they go down. So, and it just down 30-7. You knew, I mean, a couple of people said, oh, they're going to get a couple of garbage touchdowns. Got the 2-point conversion. It really meant nothing.
They ended up busting the over. The over-under was 45. I thought I didn't bet it. I told you I don't bet Saints or LSU. I liked the under yesterday. I thought 45. I thought the under would come in, and it probably should have, but just garbage touchdowns at the end there. But it goes back to as bad as that team was and as bad as they played yesterday, and they didn't deserve to win. They weren't the better team. But they're 10-7 going into halftime with a chance to across the 50 with a chance to kick a field goal to tie it at halftime. And they can't convert a 3rd and 5 with a wide open receiver on a bad pass, a drop ball, then a stupid decision to go for it cost them the game. It's 17-7 at halftime, all the momentum. They're down 10. It's over. All right, we move on. LSU basketball, all good things must come to an end. Don't give up on it. Stay with it. But clearly, LSU basketball worth taking a different look at after the break because they did win by 22. The line was 16 and a half, so they did cover, which ended my long run of LSU not covering in men's basketball. Literally, Cook playing in his second game at point guard since he was being ruled eligible, the former Walker High star, makes a difference. He had 17 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. They scored 80-plus points, which they've only done 2 or 3 times this year. Again, so having him in there makes this team more prolific offensively, no question about it. And so that's worth kind of watching to see how he'll do with a couple of week off and all that, and getting ready for SEC play. But LSU men's and women's with a little break here. But trust me, I'm going to still ride it out, Tommy. I mean, I'm still going to stay with that plan until it proves otherwise.
And I think that plan is going to work in the SEC well. Okay, and what I like in the box score was the 5 assists by Cook. Okay, if he can get that up to 7, 8, maybe 9 on a night or double digits, That's going to make the team a whole lot better. I mean, he's very athletic. I remember that when he was at Walker, and he had some good games down at Tulane when he was over there. So
He had a big year last year.
Yeah, we'll see. That's why LSU wanted to get him, because he showed that upside, and so we'll see. That I think it makes him a better team, but I still think the SEC schedule will be a struggle.
LSU football, they find themselves a 10-point favorite against Wisconsin in the ReliaQuest Bowl game on New Year's Day. Garrett Nussmeier, I talked to the media. His dad, Doug, by the way, the quarterback's coach for the Chargers, at least for another couple games. I'm sure they'll shake up the staff when the season's over with, and he'll be looking for another job somewhere else. But Nussmeier, he's pumped, excited. I expect he's going to play well, man. You know, I mean, when you've got all these practices, you got the whole month of December to prepare to be the starter. You know, he's shown, we hadn't seen much of him this year because this was the year of Jaden Daniels, but last year had some opportunities late and did well. I think he's going to play well. I like LSU to cover the 10.
He's got a big arm. His arm's a little stronger than Daniels. Okay, now he's not the running threat that Daniels is, but he's a football guy. His dad played in the NFL for the Saints for a brief period of time, and of course I think he was with the Cowboys for a little bit. So he's been a football guy all his life. He knows the game. He's got the high football IQ. Successful as a quarterback. I expect him to do well against Wisconsin. Wisconsin's not all that good, and I think he's going to have Malik Neighbors until Neighbors gets 22 yards receiving. Then he'll sit out. He just wants to break the record held by Josh Reed for career receiving yardage. And so I think Nussmeier is going to do well, and I think the team's going to rally around that guy. If you're a teammate, you want Nussmeier to do well. Daniels is gone. He's into the NFL. You want Nussmeier to do well, because that'll carry over into spring practice and into next year. So I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's what I'm curious about is, will Thomas play in the bowl game? That nobody's really talking about that. But Brian,
Kelly said the other day, said the only one that's opted out is Daniels. Now Mekhi Wingo, who is recovering from an injury, he wants to play because he's a team captain. He wants to help the team get 10 wins. That's a goal of this team, to get another 10-win season. But I haven't heard about Thomas. So
I know that
all our colleagues are out at practice. Like Neighbors only did a few things, but he was there yesterday. We'll see what happens with Thomas.
January 15th is the deadline for declaring on whether to go pro or not. And obviously you got players like himself that, everybody expects Malik Neighbors is going to go. A guy like Brian Thomas, it's a wide range of, I'm sure in his camp, he thinks he's a first-round pick. What does the NFL say? That's all that matters, is what they think, not what Tommy and Ronnie think. But I would say he's probably a solid second-round pick. Does he have enough faith in himself or desire to want to come back, be the man, be the Malik Neighbors, get all the balls, be a first-round pick next year? Or does he say, hey, second-round pick? That's something to see. So Mason Smith, believe it or not, Mason Smith's a guy who's got a decision to make, because he could probably be anywhere from a second to fifth round pick, depending on how he does with his size and speed, and he'll test great probably. So people, we all think about the first round pick guys, but a lot of guys nowadays, they don't want to be in school and they make good money in the second, third, fourth round, So, will a guy say, hey, I can go be a third, fourth, fifth rounder for sure, or I could come back and roll the dice that maybe I can move up and be a first or second rounder? Some people say bird in the hand.
Yeah, and there's so much money involved now. Ron, I read this morning. You know what Arch Manning made in NIL for the Texas Longhorns this year? Mm-hmm. Did you read that?
No.
I'm going to tell you it's a big number. I think it'll shock you, but I want you to take a guess at what you think Arch Manning, who took a handful of snaps this season for the Longhorns, made in NIL deals with the Longhorns. Take a stab. Now, it's a big number. I'm going to tell you that.
I say $2 million.
$3.2 million. $3.2 million. He took 20 snaps at that, and the backup guy went into the portal. So I don't know who they're signing or who they're getting transferring in, but you would think he's going to be considered the number one guy for next year. But and then you had Matt Rule at Nebraska saying quarterbacks in the portal start at $1 million. Start at $1 million. And many of them are getting much more that's what college football has become.
Nebraska did sign Oklahoma transfer in the portal. Quarterback from Oklahoma left to go to Nebraska, I believe. Hang on, let me look real quick.
They flipped the kid that was going to Georgia, whose
that's
daddy
right.
played at Nebraska, and he was a 5-star, supposed to be Raiola.
By the way, they flipped him officially a week or so after that press conference where he said it starts at $1.5 million on up. So at least they knew, okay, well, there's the starting point. We can go get
that
3.
was a message to his boosters,
right?
Okay, dear boosters, we're gonna need some loot.
It's unbelievable, Tommy. I'm happy for the players because we live in a society, a capitalistic society, where I believe, hey, you should be paid what you're worth and what you can get. If you can get more money or you can leave one company to go to another because they're willing to double your pay, that's your prerogative. You don't owe that company, other than to handle it the right way, maybe your departure. But and so as much as it's oogie to sit here and listen to these numbers and to hear a backup quarterback at 3.1 million and another guy at 2 and this left guard, 350,000 and all that kind of stuff, when just, LSU lost a coach, had to fire a coach because he was on a wiretap saying we made a damn strong offer. Didn't say a number. They don't have a check going somewhere. Nothing. Just a wiretap with him popping off to a guy saying we made a damn strong offer. That got 60 minutes and all this stuff. And now we're just sitting there. Yeah, you need 2 million, you need 3 million. There's a story about Marvin Harrison Jr. They put together a package for $20 million for him. I don't believe that's the case, but it's still that's all fine. But just 4 years ago, damn strong offer, throw you under the stadium, run you out on a rail. You're an awful guy. It's amazing how the world has flipped in just such a short period of time. And what we're okay with and used to, and the words we use and what we say. And I mean, I went to a signing in August. White Tommy Tanks got like $50,000 in one day, going and signing autographs and all these contracts and stuff for memorabilia just in one day. It's a baseball player like Tommy White. Nobody knows who Tommy White is. And most, they know who Malik Neighbors is. There's a lot more people around the world that have heard the name Malik Neighbors than Tommy White, even though Tommy White it's a great, great player. It's amazing how the world is flipped, what we're okay with. And it is what it is. But how can this sustain? That's what I wonder about, Tommy, is how can this NIL world sustain financially? To me, it's a bubble that's going to burst at some point.
Well, there's an article that came out this morning on Outkick that I haven't read yet, but it's Nick Saban saying college football is about to take a thunderbolt. That's the word he used.
He's going to take a what?
A thunderbolt is going to hit college football. That's a word he used. And I haven't read it yet. I didn't have time to read it. I had to get on over here to Tremonti's. I'm going to read it at some point today. But he just fears that the college football game, exactly what you just said, it's a whole nother world and going to be a whole nother world. Chip Kelly out at UCLA wants, 64 teams in a super.
I saw his plan. His
and
plan wasn't a terrible idea.
Yeah, I know. 32, kind of do the pod system like the NFL, a bunch of divisions of 4 teams, and then, have some playoffs and money will drive it all. I mean, it's easy to say Chip Kelly's idea, and he said it for a couple of years. He's finally getting some attention with it. But that would be a major undertaking. It's kind of like years ago when they had to split in LHSAA and the Catholic team was going to form their own state association. Well, it sounded good, but it wasn't feasible. It wasn't viable. It didn't happen and won't happen. So that, what will happen to college football, though, Ronnie, you said, what the change in just 5 years. It's kind of like we talked about the whole sports world's opinion of Las Vegas, which has changed in the last 10 years. So it's part of the landscape now. I mean, it's real. I mean, and we'll just have to see where it goes and what does it do. Here's my concern: what does it do to the game on the field? What happens to the LSU Ole Miss game, or et cetera, anywhere in the country? Even you drop it down to a group of 5 teams. What happens to the Southeastern Nichols game, and I mean, it's just craziness out there. But they keep pouring money. The Raging Cajuns are redoing their press box, putting suites up, and I don't know how many times Cajun Field's been full. It ain't been a lot, I can tell you that. But yet they're making a commitment to try to make Raging Cajun football better, and that's gonna take a lot of money. And then what's going to happen to their investment? Florida State voted to leave the ACC today. They're not going to do that if they don't have a place to go, right?
Well, the
issue, the board meeting.
Yeah. So here's the problem: is that if the board votes to leave the ACC for Florida State, they're going to owe. The reports are $120 million. Okay. It doesn't make sense to go to any other league, even if there's a spot. If the SEC, Big 12, whatever, you're going to have to $120 million to leave a league. You can't go. And why would you? The ACC can stay. I mean, Florida State can stay in the ACC. They got a much easier route to getting to the playoffs through the ACC than they do through the SEC or Big Ten or something. I know they're frustrated about what happened, and I know that they've been contemplating alternative measures for a while, and clearly, when they got snubbed going 13-0, they felt like, okay, we're in the wrong conference. But the ACC is not going to let them leave and just say, yeah, you don't know it's the $120 million. Don't worry about it. So I know there's going to be a lot of legal stuff going on, but I don't see it happening, Tommy. I think at the end of the day, I think you're committed to the ACC. You got contracts with the ACC. I don't see the law saying, yeah, you can leave and you don't have to pay them. I think you're going to owe them $120 million.
Well, and here's the other thing. You don't leave unless you have a landing spot. It's kind of like, people these days when they have a job and they don't like the job. You don't leave that one until you take another one. Okay. That's just a little common sense there. So unless Florida State has a landing pad, which I don't foresee, I haven't read anything. I haven't heard anything about that. And no conference is going to take, SEC is not going to take one more team. If they ever expand, it would have to be two teams, for scheduling purposes. So I don't know, man. It's I understand Florida State's bitter, and they have a right to be in many, many regards. But I know their board of directors, whatever they call them over there, meeting today. The agenda was posted on social media. I think they're going to vote to explore options. I don't think they're going to vote to leave the ACC. And that's
they may vote to leave, but voting to say we want to leave and actually being able to leave are two different things. Because then you go to the ACC, you said we're leaving. They go, okay, fine, just give me my $120 million check. And then they go, okay, no, we're here. We're going to subpoena you. We're going to sue you to leave. Well, that's going to drag on and take a while. And then at some point, maybe at best, they come back and say, you know what? Instead of 120, how about 80 million? And so it's a crazy world, man. I think we've been talking about drastic changes. There's already drastic changes and shakeup with NIL and with the conferences. Obviously, the Pac-12 is basically not gone, but we're not done. We're not done, and it's actually going to be very interesting to see what happens. Let's just hope that it doesn't ruin LSU, because at the end of the day, most of us, that's what we care about the most. All right, TK.
Ronnie, let's tell everybody Merry Christmas. And Sports Shorts Daily is going to take a little break next week. We'll be back on Monday, January 1. We'll be on from about 9 o'clock in the morning with LSU kicking off at 11.
We'll be on at 10. We'll be
10. Okay, we get on at 10 Monday morning, so we're going to take the week off. We certainly appreciate everybody who watches this show, likes it, shares it, tells people about it, and we wish all of you a Merry Christmas. Patronize our sponsors, but the biggest thing you can do is like and share this video. When you do that, that helps a whole lot of things.
Yep, and for those still looking for, look, it's, believe it or not, it's going to be here. It'll be 2 weeks from this coming Tuesday, but January 9th is right around the corner. We've got the Champions of the Diamond event with the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. We have individual tickets. So if you just want to come by yourself or you want to bring you and a guest, you don't have to buy a table, but we have tables and individual tickets available at lasportshall.com. It's the Champions of the Diamond event. Roger Clemens, Todd Walker, Jay Johnson, Skip Bertman, Paul Maneri, Mike Bianco, Ron Washington, on and on and on and on. Dylan Cruz, all of them going to be there. It's going to be a fantastic event. We're going to have a panel discussion, dinner, food, band, entertainment. It's going to be a great night. January 9th. Get your tickets at lasportshall.com. Get your tables and tickets now. For Tommy Christ, I'm Ronnie Rance. Have a Merry Christmas, everybody, and a Happy New Year. We look forward to seeing you next year, January 1st, 10 a.m. Until then, please like and share this video, and have a great one, everybody.